Yo, parish orphans and retrogrades. It is August the 7th, 2024, the year of our Lord, 2024. And today with me is my longtime friend, Matthew Marsden, actor extraordinaire, Catholic extraordinaire, all around good dude. Matt, thanks for joining the show. We were just talking about how this is the first time I think you've ever been on Rules for Retrogrades, and we've been friends for 5 or 6 years.
Yeah,
Welcome to the
thank you for having me. Yeah, it's crazy because I felt like I don't know why. Maybe it's because when we talk, we natter on forever. But I kind of felt like I'd already been on, but I haven't. So there
It's
you
weird.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that reverse deja vu or something. I think we became friends the first year I was on the internet, which was the 2018, late 2018, and we
Yeah.
would talk all the time. That was when we both lived in Southern California,
Hmm.
not far away, probably an hour and a half away from each other. We'd get together, we'd talk behind the scenes. You'd give me feedback on shows. That was in the Taylor Marshall TNT days. But I just and all the issues I want to talk to you about. Matthew Marsden, actor extraordinary. People, if you don't know, he's in things like Black Hawk Down and the Rambo reboot, Transformers 2, which is a movie that gets beaten up on, but I like that movie a lot. And we're going to talk about a lot of those things today, that running this rangy span from Roman Catholicism, mass immigration in England, because you're Englandish, in your
Englandish. Yeah.
background. Yeah, you're Englandian. Feminism, the Olympics, that's something we're talking about. We usually agree on everything. There will be something interesting to talk about there. Masculinity in general, particular masculinity in the ranks of Christianity. But the
Hmm.
first topic I want to talk to you about, Matt, is something that I feel like has spanned the ranks of our friendship, something we always talk about behind the scenes, related it to you as a conservative in Hollywood, no longer in Hollywood. You moved to Texas. I moved to Mississippi around the same time.
Hmm.
And then me, I remember when I was kind of in the trad world, and people were like, "Well, I don't know. I don't know that this guy is what I was used to." So you immediately sort of commiserated. The big topic is conservatives and even faithful Catholics really kind of eat their own, and the left doesn't do this. I feel like we've talked about this a million times.
Yeah, I mean, it's a source of massive frustration for me. I mean, you're seeing it right now politically, especially politically. Where you have. I mean, look, I'm a big fan of Ron DeSantis. I like Ron DeSantis,
Yeah.
but he lost. He didn't win the primary. So, people that are going on and they're like, oh, well, I just, Ron DeSantis, he's principled man, and I'm not going to vote for Trump. And I'm like, okay, so what you're really doing right now, I mean, this is just talk about politically, right? Is what you're doing right now is you're giving the vote to the other side, basically. Because of your principled stance, what that means is you're kind of elevating the other side. And I just don't see how that's I don't understand the mentality in that. I understand this kind of like, well, I'm going to stand by my principles, but what happens both politically and in the entertainment industry, and unfortunately, as you know, and we've spoken about this multiple times, Catholics are a nightmare for this. But so in the entertainment industry, the left just coalesces behind one person, or they'll come together and they'll work together. And we don't. We just don't do it. We don't look after each other. We don't. I mean, I say we, of course, we do,
Yeah.
because we understand the problem and we've worked actively to try and remedy that, even if it's between a very small group, right? But you see it a lot. You see, like, I mean, I don't think I've ever been hired by a conservative since I came out as a conservative. I've certainly never been hired by any Catholics. And so they talk a good game, right? So Catholic filmmakers will go out and say, listen, we're Catholics and this is what we do. I'm like, okay, well, who did you hire?
Right.
You went to the same Hollywood talent pool, didn't you? Because you were
Right.
seduced by the same thing. So they will go out in film, even though they've got very little, and no one, I'm not saying anyone in particular, but I'm not talking about Mel or, the big guys, but they'll go out and they'll say, well, we're authentically Catholic, and that's what we do. And oh, sorry, guy, that's authentically Catholic. I'm not going to have you in my film, but I will partner with other people that basically I complain about behind the scenes. So we really don't have this kind of, you know, the Jews do it very, very well. They support each other. Even the Muslims do it very, very well. And Catholics are the worst. They are the worst. They will slit your throat. You know this in the entertainment industry, especially. And they just do not come together. And it's like, oh, I've got this like little silo of followers, or I've got fans, and I'm going to keep them. I'm going to keep them. I'm not going to share. I'm not going to be magnet. I'm not going to be an example of the way that you should be, because, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats, right, Tim? Like we've always been like this. Like, you'll call me up and I'll say, hey, Tim, blah blah blah. You know, we have that dialogue, and it's freely giving to one another. And like you said, it doesn't mean that you have to always agree with each other on everything, but there's that fundamental principle of our faith that is the cornerstone, is the foundation of our friendship, basically. And
Yeah.
so we should look after each other, but we don't.
My first exposure to good, like coalescence and coalition building, was via Patrick Coffin, who remains a close friend to this day, shocker, because he observes the principle, and you. And I think it was actually Pat saying, he's hooked me up with so many of the folks that I know, so many of them that people associate. Oh, Tim knows so-and-so. A lot of that was Patrick. But you were a connection through Patrick. I forget, one tends to forget friend B. Actually, oh, I only know friend B through friend A, but it does well in the space of gratitude to remember. And you and I are friends through Patrick, and it's absolute good networking, better in essence and in spirit than even the way the Jews do it. That's all Hollywood Jews. That's a whole other story. They're really, really efficient at it. But this is the Christian spirit of charity, where Pat's like, you know who, you know, I don't know, makes me laugh a lot, just like you, Tim? Matt Marsden. And so I'm going to hook you guys up. And he just, boom, he does it out of the goodness of his heart. And
yeah, he's the real deal. He you know, I mean,
yeah,
he's like you said, and sorry to cut you off. I just wanted to say to agree with you, and also say, you know, he's probably the most generous person as far as sharing contacts and not worrying about it. He's a facilitator, and he wants to put good people with good people.
right.
And you know, so, you know, I will never have a bad word said about Pat Coffin. You know,
Never.
you can say what you want. You might disagree with him on this and that, but he's a really, really good man. Like, he's genuinely a good man. I love him as a brother. He's he's the real deal. And you're right. You know, he put us together, and I always say the same thing about you. You know, you're a genuinely good man with a good heart. And you know, you look, when you're in that space and you're out there and you hear, I mean, I'm sure you get it about me, you're in nattering, I'm like, listen, I don't want to hear it. Like, these are my friends, I don't want to hear it. These are, you know, you might disagree with them, that's fine, but the principle is, when the poop hits the fan, you're going to look one side and there's going to be Pat Coffin. You're going to look the other side and there's going to be Tim Gordon, and you're good to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's
Right.
the important thing. And I think we've lost that a little bit. Again, like you said, you have always been, like, if ever I need any help on anything, like anything, you know, theological that I want to talk to somebody about, I'll text you or call you, and you are immediately there. I don't think I've ever had an instance where you haven't, or even when I've called you and I've said, hey, you know, firstly, you always pick up, unless you're in mass, but you always pick up. And secondly, you always will always give your time. And I think that it's important for people to understand that the person away from the camera is the same,
Yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
get, like, it's very rare that you get someone who is the same person in front of the camera as they are away from the camera. And you and Pat are both like that, and I'm very, very grateful for your friendship.
You too, man. And that is, I guess, what we're talking about. We said the left is good at coalition building, the right's not good at it, but this spans into a related subtopic, which is what you see, what you get. And it's not, I mean, I'm sorry to, you know, disabuse folks of their affections or whatever, but with so many of the conservative, because I've been working more in the broader conservative space the last couple of years than just the Catholic space. You know, when St. Paul got disillusioned with evangelizing the Jews. He took it to the Gentiles. That's where I've been the last couple of years, but I still do Catholic commentary and news. And it's the same with the famous, it's not real celebrity, it's what Pat calls micro celebrity because it's on YouTube. But with big YouTubers that are Catholic, I can't say that most of them are the same on and off screen. I will always, like you said, I mean, I'm just parroting what you said, always say with Pat, like the good man you see, the man you could people know my flaws from watching me 3 times a week. I have a really loyal fan base. People, I'm sure, can see, you have flaws, Pat has flaws, I have flaws. The flaws and the strengths are exactly what you see on the screen, but same thing, like, that's just not a conservative leitmotif any longer, and it should be. I guess it makes a little more sense to me, Matt, that conservatives struggle because we cleave to principles. The left doesn't. It's just power. It's the eye of Sauron, the will to power Nietzschean thing. So they don't get caught up on, well, I'm not going to vote for Trump because I like DeSantis or vice versa. That's a little bit more understandable, though it's troubling, than the absolute, at least it suggests integrity. Whereas this related problem of a lot of conservatives, a lot of Catholics are just not the same on off screen and on screen. That's an actual integrity issue. And that's always what I was like, man, I have like business friends that do this, that are well known, like, but you and Pat are some of the guys I really, really trust. Pat was there when Abby came back from having half her brain removed 4 years ago. He came out to our RV. We were living in an RV during COVID, and it's like, he's like, I'll be there. So I don't know. Why do you think, I'm always going to incline toward talking about it in the Catholic space, but, and you will, also a Catholic, but you incline more toward talking about it in the conservative space. Why is it such a problem? I mean, like, I know the Catholic conservative filmmakers who made that crap film, Cabrini. And I mean, I know them a little behind the scenes. You know them better. And I'm like, man, the coolest, like, flyest, dopest, best man that they could go get for a lead for their movies, if they wanted to get a conservative, faithful Catholic man, would be Matthew Marsden. And I mean, I'm not trying to be overly specific, but why are conservatives so bad at this? Why are they not going to the well that they should?
Okay, so I mean, I'm not going to address this. This isn't to anyone specific, right?
No.
Like, so this isn't anyone specific.
I didn't mean it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just clarifying that for what I'm about to say. So I think that, for those people that don't know, like, so I grew up a cradle Catholic. I went away from the faith. I had a reversion later on in my life, and that was after I'd had a lot of success, right? A lot of success in the UK. Came over, did Black Hawk Down, was in Hollywood, doing movies. So I knew what it was like to be famous, right? In the UK, I couldn't walk down the street, right? When I was on Coronation Street in 97, 98, right? It was insane. I didn't, because I think that, just to go back to think about what inspires someone to go into the arts like that. So for me, I'm sure, and we can talk about this later, I'm sure I didn't have a dad in my life, so I felt like there was something missing. So there's some kind of like psychological need there that I wanted validation, but it just so happened that I was really good at acting. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try and pursue this. And I don't know why it happened, but it did. God's will, obviously, but I ended up being a success, but I didn't do it for fame. Right. I did it because I wanted to be really good at something, which, now things have really changed, right? People do stuff for fame and they're not good at anything. Right. So just, put a pin in that. Right. So, so I had a lot of success. I knew that fame was BS. I knew it didn't make you happy. I knew that the money doesn't make you happy. The pursuit of it and all that. It's just like you're a hamster on a wheel. Right. So when I came back to my faith, I knew that aspect of it. I knew that, like, the faith was ridiculous. It doesn't really change, because people are always kind of aspiring to the next thing instead of being where they are. And so when people would say, I'd meet Catholics in the industry and they go, oh, you know, I really want to make like Catholic movies. And I got sucked into it, right? Initially, I got sucked into it. I was like, this is great. People are aligned. But they think that they are immune to the temptations, right? So they think they're immune to the premieres and the planes and the, you know, the nice hotels and the cars and all this. Well, I'd been through all that. So I knew it didn't bring you happiness. And I knew like it doesn't hold anything for me. You know, it's not an attractive thing for me. But when you all of a sudden make all this money, or you're going and you're doing, I don't know, like you know, you're flying here and you're flying there and you meet with this person, and there's that person that you saw on TV, like or movies like 10 years ago. Now you're out for dinner with them, and oh look, and then what happens is they think that they are immune to it, and they're not. And the fact that they think they're immune to it makes them even more susceptible to it because they don't have their guards up when they go into it, right? So it becomes seductive. And then once they're in it, they like it and they look around and they're like, the precious. I'm going to keep this. It's mine. It's mine. No, no, you can't come in and you can't come in. And especially if you're someone who knows it's all BS and you can call them on it, or you can say, well, hang on a second. Like, you know, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? You're fearless about that, which is what, you know, like I say, what you see is what you get with you. What you see is what you get with me. Either you appreciate that, you know where you stand, warts and all, or you don't. But like I said, I know when I call Tim Gordon, I know what I'm going to get. You know what you're going to get with me. Well, a lot of people are afraid of that because they don't want to be called on their BS, especially, for example, you know, in your area of expertise, theology, philosophy, they don't want to open the door to that, right? Because to lesser educated people, and this isn't like, you know, not everyone's got a doctorate, right? So it's not some kind of a put down, but to lesser educated people, they can be more manipulated. And I think it's the same in the entertainment industry. Like, you can't tell me the way it goes on film, right? You can try as best as you want, but I've done more than pretty much any of the other Catholics, apart from Jim and Mel, right? And Mark, right? Like the big guys. I've done, you know, more than the majority of them, right? So they can't BS me. So and so as you're a good steward and you're sitting there and you're seeing people talk to others, and you're like, hang on a second, like that's not right, that's not true. Why are you compromising your faith right now? You're going around telling everybody that you're these Catholics and you go to TLM and you're so holy and all that, but you're aligning with other people, right?
Yeah.
That over here you're saying that you don't want to align with. At least with me, like I'll go into it and I'll go, hey, listen, this is the way it's got to be. I'm gonna work with these other people because we don't have the infrastructure to do it properly in just our own little communities, right?
The
And so
Catholic
what
thing.
in the Catholic thing. So yeah, so what we're not doing is we're not elevating our own people, right? We're not looking and saying, hey, there's enough to go around here. Let's work together. And so it becomes very siloed. Like there's all these little islands around. And you know, it's weird to me because, like I said, it doesn't, that world doesn't hold anything for me. It's not something I want to be a part of. I'm not seduced by it. You know,
Yeah.
I like getting paid, you know, and do I like going to other, you know, nice places? Well, I do, but now that means I'm away from a family, right? So priorities change, right, Tim?
Right.
And so I think that, you know, part of it is this: number one, I can call them on their BS because I know that, you know, when they are failing and why they're failing, and they don't want that, and they also don't want you around people that are, you know, have money. Because if you go around people with money and they go, well, hang on a second, he just said what, you know, what you're getting paid how much, whatever it might be,
Yeah.
they don't want that. So they silo it instead of opening the doors and saying, hey, listen, we're a team. Let's work together. I'm going to use you in your film. You know, for me, I'm going to hire you as a director. You know, and that's why, to be honest with you, like we've got probably one of the greatest living directors in Mel Gibson. Why isn't he directing?
Well, I mean, but
Everyone should be giving him money. You know, people should be giving one of the greatest living directors money to go and make great movies, but they're not. And I'm not saying this is on Mel's part. I'm saying it's on everybody else's part, right?